Hi, welcome back to part 2B of my loft storage floor video. Here you can see I'm using the template from the first video that I made from part 2A. This template is going to help me cut the angle on the floor joists that I've got laid out here that we're going to move up into the loft once I've cut all the ends. So I'm just using a Ryobi cordless skill saw, completely invaluable on this kind of project, can't recommend it enough. The wood's a little bit wet, so sometimes the blade is sticking a little bit, and plus the blade's a little bit old because it's done quite a lot of work on my flat previously, but again couldn't do without this really. So we'll just nip through these 8 or so floor joists, and then we'll get them up in the loft. So just cutting the last one, just run this one through, a little bit of sticking. And now we'll move these up into the loft, just trying to get them out of the way, and then we'll get the first couple laid down in the right position. Okay, so here we have the first joist sitting in position, and I'm marking on the joist where I need to take out a small section because the central supporting wall packer sits higher than the packer on the outer wall. So to make the joist level, which you can see at the moment it's not, I need to remove a sliver from the underside of the joist to bring it down level, so we have a nice flat floor. You can see where I've made the marking, and then I'm just going to cut out a section. Here I'm just roughly marking out the cut lines with a set square. Now going back to the central wall so that I know the depth to cut out of the joist, I've just laid a piece of wood that's the same size as the packer on the outer wall next to the supporting wall packer, and I'm just going to measure down. As you can see, it's a 20mm packer. I'm just going to measure down from the top of the internal supporting wall packer to the top of this packer, and this will give me the maximum measurement that I want to cut out of the joist. So now that I know the maximum depth that I need, I'm just going to mark that down in here, and then do a couple of variations up to that maximum point, and then just cut out a sliver of wood at a time, put the joist into position, see if it's level. If it's not, take it out, cut a little bit more off. Obviously I don't want to cut out the maximum amount of wood straight away, because you can't guarantee that the supporting walls of this house are level with one another. It might be that the outside supporting wall is slightly higher than the internal supporting wall. I mean, after all, these houses, or this house was built in the 1930s, so So now you can see I've cut the sliver off and it's sitting on the internal supporting wall, and I've got the long level laying on top, and as you can see, if I can hold the camera still, it's not quite level, it's still a bit high at the internal supporting wall side, so I need to just take the joist back out and cut fraction more off. Probably only about 5mm needs to come off and it should be good. So I marked out the sliver that I'm going to take off, fraction more. I'm just going to cut this out with the Ryobi cordless jigsaw. It's not a bad little tool, this. One thing I would say is it works best when you use blades that have the upcut only. If you get the down cut blades, it tends to jump around a bit. It's really handy having the light so you can see along the line that you need to cut. Okay, so just laid in the joist again. I'm just checking that this joist, the measurement between it and the ceiling rafter is equal at both ends, so it's running parallel. So they're running parallel together. Might just need a bit of nudging along. So now I'm just going to secure the joist into the adjacent joist and then into the packer below. So here you'll notice that I've laid another joist next to the one that we've just put in, and this will be bolted together, what they call sistering, and this is to provide support for the ceiling joists that will go around the loft access, which you can just see in the background. So I'm just securing this second joist into the supporting wall packer and fixing it down with some screws. Okay, now I've got my second joist laid down, and I'm just checking the level across and checking the level down the length of the second joist, just to make sure everything's sitting plumb. Once I've got this joist secured in, then I can lay some board down on both of them so I can get under the eaves to just secure them down to the packer that sits underneath the eaves. So just securing this one onto the adjacent floor joist, and then securing it down through into the packer. So now I'm just sliding some of the flooring on top of the joist we've just laid. This is just to give me something to work off of so that I'm not putting pressure on the ceiling rafters below. Just got to clear out some of the insulation to make way for the next joist that goes in. There's obviously some ceiling lighting and the wiring to sort of work around here. I'll probably mention this later in the video, but the distance between each of the joists can't be any more than 400 millimeters between each one. That's because of the 18mm chipboard flooring, tongue and groove flooring that I'm laying down on top of it. So it can be anything 400 millimeters and below. So I'm just laying some board in place so that I've got something to support my weights whilst I put the next packer under the eave and secure it down. And then I'm just going to make my way along, putting the joist in one by one. Now I'm just reusing and recutting the insulation that was already sitting above the ceiling. I'm just cutting this into narrower strips to fit between the ceiling rafter and the floor joist. Now that all the floor joists are in place, I'm just going to measure between the floor joist and the ceiling rafter to make sure that I've got all the floor joists running parallel with them all the way to the eave. So I'm just taking a measurement here near the central supporting wall, and then I'll go up to where the eave is and measure the exact same floor joist and ceiling rafter and just shuffle them along. Now when it comes to securing the floor joist into the packer at the eave end, I found that it's essential to have one of these screwdriver extensions. It really helps you get the angle to get the screw down through the joist and into the packer. I don't really know how else you would do this without this, so really handy just to get that. Obviously use as long a screws as possible because you're going in at an angle. It will take up more of the screw before you hit the packer. Now this is the part where we need to find the midway point along the length of our joist so that we can start putting in the noggins between each floor joist. The noggins are there to basically secure all the joists together, and they stop the floor from bouncing. Now that I've found the centre point, I'm just going to take a pad and just measure the distance between each floor joist, so that I've got a list of measurements to cut the noggins, so that I can just do them in one go and then bring them up and secure them into place. So I'm just going along, just double checking. Move on to the next one, take the measurement. Right. So we've got our noggins cut, and we lay them into place. These have to go horizontally rather than vertically, because obviously we have to avoid the ceiling rafters below. We don't want them touching the ceiling rafters. So as you can see, I'm just slotting them in, and usually 2 screws either side, just screwing them into the floor joist. Helps if you pre-drill each one, obviously stops the wood from splitting. As you can see from this angle, I'm staggering each of the noggins. This just helps with making the floor a little bit more rigid. Anyway, I'll just finish up doing these noggins here. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please take a look at the links for any of the tools I've used, like the circular saw and the jigsaw. And stay tuned for part 2C, where I'll be building the next area of floor around our loft access. So I'll be showing you how I do that. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to subscribe, and see you in the next video.